Lucky number 13 this week for the Glass of Joe podcast with my dear friend PJ Glasser. I'm Joe Malfa. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. We are entering month 4, PJ, officially. This is incredible. And we got to start with the giant mess that we were left with last week. So if you listen to episode 12,
that was quite the bombshell.
We had said at the very end, the vote came out that the Big Ten was postponing to the spring. Mm-hmm. And we said we didn't really want to touch the mess that was college football in last week's episode because we knew within the next 24 to 48 hours after that episode was released, the picture would become a little bit more clear. We didn't realize that it would be the end of the episode that the picture started to get a little bit more clear. But it became a little bit more clear. And while being clearer, it's still very murky and there's a lot to unpack. And I guess just the biggest thing to start out with is the basics. Big Ten, Pac-12 voted to postpone to spring. Essentially, in my mind, that's as good as a cancellation because I don't see any
They're
way
not playing in the spring.
You're playing in the spring,
No,
especially with the draft. And, you know, does it really matter if Ohio State's playing football if, 12 of their draftable guys don't play because they don't want to risk getting hurt? No.
It's their JV team
in the
at that
spring.
point.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not playing in the spring because then it's going to hinder them for the fall. If you're going to play a spring season, then you're going to have no break and start the following fall season. So essentially, as good as a cancellation in my mind for the Big Ten and the Pac-12.
Yes.
Now the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 are still planning to proceed, and that's where things kind of get into a whole mess of arguments about should they, shouldn't they, why are their doctors different than the other doctors in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. And I think it just boils down to, PJ, you were there. You lived it. You were in Tuscaloosa. For the ACC, some of the ACC schools, I'm not talking like
Boston
Wake
College
Forest
right.
and Boston College.
Right.
For the big ACC schools, for all of the SEC, and for all of the Big 12, it is more than just a game. It's a religion, and they were always going to be more willing to take on that risk. And
no doubt. And I think when you look at the Big Ten, I think a big part of this has to be something that you know very well, which happened with Jordan McNair, the offensive lineman at Maryland. The fallback from that, the liability that the Big Ten took, that Maryland took. And you got to think they're just sitting there, the Big Ten commissioner, the presidents, the chancellors of the school, and they're just saying if one of these kids, God forbid, dies from this virus, when it's something that we just could have canceled the season. Yes, a lot of people would have given us crap for it, but a lot of people would have said it was the right decision. And I just think because that happened to them in their conference, I think that's a lot that went into this decision. And like you said, I mean, a lot of this is just political and about geography. ACC, SEC, Big 12, all those big college football schools are in the South where they're a little more inclined to play, as opposed to the Big Ten where those schools are up north, and the Pac-12 where those schools are out west and maybe are on the little safer side. But it's just a mess. I mean, you saw the picture out in Tuscaloosa.
It was their center who tweeted it out. And, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Like, if you want there to be football, like, don't be
But, Joe, and this is what we were talking about with the MLB, and we can't even trust MLB players to take the necessary precautions to look after one another. When you talk about college football, it's not only the players and the coaches, it's the entire student body that has to do their part.
And I always have my TV out, only record in case there's anything breaking that comes across. And they're just talking now about North Carolina and how they had to shift already because they had an outbreak where they were set to start this week. I have a friend whose sister just started going there. And she was all excited, and now everything is shifted to online. So people are still on campus, but online learning while still being on campus. So they totally shifted to remote learning. So now what happens with the play? So officially 177 students in isolation, 349 in quarantine on UNC's campus. They haven't been open for a week. And what do you do? I know a lot of times football players and I saw this having worked for the team at Maryland, a lot of times you have a lot of online classes sometimes, or they're structured in a way that you're off a couple of days a week because you really load up like 2 days. So I get that it's no problem for these student athletes to just shift to all online courses and stay on campus. But what happens then if God forbid, at a place like UNC or anywhere, it gets too bad to the point that they have to send kids off of campus. They have to send kids home. Are you going to keep the football players on campus just because they're football players? Like, there's just so many issues that can unravel as the Big 12, ACC, and SEC go through. And look, it's a risk they're obviously calculating to take, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm very curious to see as it draws nearer, and again, it's got to be quick because it's already August 18th. Justin Fields, at what point will he shift from starting that petition that has hundreds of thousands of signatures to get the Big Ten to play to just transferring to a Duke or something? Just like I don't know, just pick a random ACC school that came to mind. Like how soon before we start seeing a mass exodus of essentially any Big Ten or Pac-12 junior or senior who knew they were turning pro at the end of the season to get another year of tape in? It's going to be like the wild, wild west if the NCAA comes out and says they're granting transfer waivers. And anybody who had a futures bet, like who's like an alum of a school like Duke, just to continue with that, who every year you're like, oh, let's throw $10 on my alma mater. Now all of a sudden you get Justin Fields, you never know. But there's just so many unknowns and wild things that can happen from a health standpoint, from a transfer standpoint. I saw people this week were talking about how devastating it could be for the Big Ten and Pac-12 if the Big 12, ACC, and SEC are able to pull this off, and those two conferences are left in the dust having no football this year. And that's something they obviously knew was a possibility when they made a decision. I don't know. Like we said, we didn't want to touch this last week until we knew more about it. And now we know more about it, and it's still just a big tangled ball of yarn that is impossible to pull apart.
It's a no-win situation. The Big Ten, too, I mean, look, there will be a bunch of kids now who think like, oh, they don't take football as seriously as these other schools, which might hurt them in recruiting. And then you might have a couple Big Ten, Pac-12 players who might sue their conferences because if they're trying to get to the NFL draft, they don't have any fresh tape. Scouts have to watch their stuff. Yeah. So it's all a disaster. But this all comes down to money versus health at the end of the day. It's what it all comes down to because we've talked about it. These towns like Tuscaloosa and Baton Rouge.
The estimation was $2 billion. The official economic estimation was $2 billion in revenue losses for Tuscaloosa if they don't play.
Joe, when LSU comes to Tuscaloosa for Bama LSU.
Which, by the way, this year is – they scheduled it yesterday when they released the schedule.
On the Masters.
It is the Saturday of Masters, and that is going to be an incredible
That's going to be the greatest week ever. But again, if we get to it.
If we get to it.
But look, Bama LSU week in Tuscaloosa, Bama Auburn, hotels charge $600 a night, maybe even more. And people don't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
So those games are their Super Bowl. I mean, that's how these hotels make their money. That's how these little mom and pop shops make their money. It's such an economic machine, college football is, especially for that part of the country. But again, you're trying to weigh that to human life. And you have one side saying that the risk is so minimal for kids to die from this. But I get that. But also, it's like you got some pretty old coaches walking the sideline. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I get that the players might be safer opposed to older coaches. But could you imagine if Nick Saban dies from something like this?
But even but like any old coach like that. But even just the long-term health risks that they're starting to see are part of this with players that are having heart problems, or not just players, people who are having heart problems. There are other long-lasting effects that it's the reason why you're seeing around different sports players who are opting out. I mean, you look at Freddie Freeman. Like Freddie Freeman, in the very emotional press conference before the MLB season started, he was tearing up. He was saying like he was fearing for his life. His fever was 104.5. Like, and this is a well-oiled machine professional athlete who was saying like he was sitting there asking God not to take him that night. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's
the Oilers guy, right?
It's a lot to
Did he pass from it, or that was something separate?
That was something separate.
Separate, okay.
Separate.
But
that was another separate tragic thing, and but no, I mean it's just
Freddie was. It's tough, man. I mean I do not want to be those guys right now making the decisions, but this is why they get paid the big money to do it because they're not going to make friends regardless of what they decide. it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. And then you got all this stuff. I saw Kansas State today. They were saying that they're gonna have like 25% of fans in the stadium. So now all of a sudden you got some stadiums being completely empty, some stadiums having people. Maybe that's a little advantage. And then certain schools will be like, why can't we have fans in our? There's a lot of moving parts.
I couldn't think of his name while I was saying it, so I let you jump in. But Eduardo Rodriguez, a pitcher for the Red Sox, he's the one who has developed a heart problem from COVID where they don't know if he's coming back now. So it's not just the awful potential scenario, God forbid, of a player or coach dying. It's, how many players who are willing to risk having these long-term heart problems and lung problems. And it's just, I'm glad I'm not making the decisions. And and again, it just goes back to both of these things can be true. We can both want to see college football this fall. We can both also not be sure if that's the right decision, but we'll still watch it if it happens, because that's kind of how we are right now with baseball. Like, everybody felt pretty confident, at least I thought, about the bubbles for the NHL and NBA, and they've proven it. But baseball, when the seasons first started, everyone was like, it was a prevailing school of thought. Let's be happy that we have baseball. Let's enjoy it. But that also doesn't mean that we can't wonder if it's the right decision or not. You could wonder if it's the right decision or not and still tune in at 7:10 to watch Jacob deGrom throw that first pitch for the Mets. And it's going to be the same thing with college football. We can wonder if it's the right decision or not. Only time will tell if it's the right decision or not. But we could still tune in week one to watch, Bama playing whoever they're playing in week one. And we'll still tune in on November, 13th, to watch Bama LSU. So it's going to be a wild fall. And there's really no other way to put it. And I don't think this story is anywhere near its end in terms of college football and the impacts that the virus is going to have on whether or not they do or don't play. And we're talking Power 5, but there's this same split among the other conferences too. Yeah. The Group of 5, some have canceled, some aren't. The MAC canceled. North Dakota State in D2 or FCS. I always get confused. I'm sorry. I don't. No offense to them, but there's so many technicalities there. But North Dakota State.
The Mountain West. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
They canceled.
Yes. And people are talking about Trey Lance, who's supposed to be a first-round pick. Yeah. Will he transfer in? Someone talked about him transferring into LSU. So there's just so many moving parts still. It's going to be a crazy 2.5, 3 weeks before college football potentially gets started.
Well, we'll see what happens with that over the coming weeks. As you said, the seasons for the ACC is supposed to start September 7th, I think. Big 12 and SEC September 26th. As we move from college football now to golf.
1 second, and I mean, it's a good segue too because golf's involved. I just looked up the full schedule now officially for that weekend. On Sunday the 15th, you got Masters, and then you got a full day of football that also includes 49ers Saints in the primetime 425 slot and Ravens Patriots Sunday Night Football. And then Saturday you've got day 3 of the Masters and LSU Alabama. So that is going to be an incredible weekend. Which
is something we talk about with Steve Sands, our guest, coming up in a little bit about that scheduling with CBS and what they'll do, because the Masters now falls in November and has to compete with NFL and college football. So
with daylight savings time.
And with daylight savings time.
Yes. About that as well.
So Steve Sands was great talking to him. I was so thrilled we got a golf guest on, especially we got the playoffs coming up over the next 3 weeks. And for people who don't follow golf, they might be a little confused about how there's like playoffs in golf because the majors are the big events. So basically, long story short, every event, depending on where you finish, guys get certain points. And this week, the guys on tour that are the top 125 will all be playing in the Northern Trust in Boston. After this week, it'll go down to the top 70. And then in 2 weeks, it'll be in Atlanta, East Lake for the Tour Championship top 30. So, Joe, it's a loaded field. We got the top 125 players who are in the FedEx Cup standings. I'm pretty much like a major field. A lot of big names, a lot of guys who took last week off to prepare for this. So with that being said, who do you like this week?
So first of all, your eyes have to go down to anybody who's between 70 and 125 who might be a big name, who needs to have a great showing in order to make next week's cut. And there's actually a lot of really big names in that group. Brooks Koepka is in that group. Jordan Spieth's at 100. Brooks Koepka's at 97. Ricky Fowler's at 88. Tommy Fleetwood's at 89. Ian Poulter's at 85. You have a lot of names who are in that 70 to 125 who have to play their way into next week.
Yes.
So you kind of think about them as guys who maybe not be a win pick, but if you want to sprinkle a top 10 bet on them because they got to have a strong showing or something like that. Tiger's probably safe. He's 49th, so he doesn't have to really overdo it this week. He'll be in the following week as well. Now, as far as a pick to win, I really, really liked the way that Jason Day looked in the PGA Championship. And, I mean, if not for Morikawa's late, historic, incredible charge, Jason Day was right there. The arrow's been pointing up on Jason Day for 3 or 4 weeks now. And, you know, he's just had top 10, great showing at the PGA. And he's not in a position, again, where he has to kind of overdo it this week, but that doesn't mean you don't want to win, obviously, and propel yourself up the standing. He's 45th. And he's playing well. Course suits him. I know that, again, the usual suspects of DeChambeau, Koepka, those are going to be the guys who are main picks for this week. And especially with some of those guys, again, having to fight for their lives to get into next week. But I really like the way Day's playing. He's got good value. He's at 23 to 1. So give me the Aussie this week.
Day, you mentioned Day's been playing good at the PGA. His last 4 starts, I think he has 4 top 10, 15 finishes. So I
think it's 3 top 10s, 1 top 15.
He's been playing well. You talked about the big names. I'm going with one of them this week. I usually don't like to go favorites, but this is a spot where I like DeChambeau a lot. He won here 2 years ago. And, again, I liked how he played in the PGA. He kind of got over that hump of he obviously made this big transformation, shifting in this power game, wants to just bomb it off the tee. And his best major finish before the PGA, I think, was in the top 30 or something. He was a non-factor, played really well, was in contention for much of that Sunday. And I think he's gonna play well at Boston. Again, it's a great field, so expect a pack leaderboard, a lot of good names. But I think DeChambeau, I don't know. You have the odds in front of you. What are his odds?
He's 12 to 1 right now. He's 12 to 1. Jason Day, my pick, is 23 to 1.
Who's ahead of him? Thomas, I assume, and
let me just pull it
Koepka.
back up. I had it up for who you had and who I had, but I did close out of it for a second. Give me a second to pull that up. While I'm pulling it back up, the one thing that I did forget to say is that Jason Day does also have a second and third place finish at this course of the past. So I mentioned that the course suits him. He does have the high finishes here as well. So DeChambeau is actually the favorite this week.
Oh, wow.
At 12 to 1.
Okay.
Behind him, JT and McIlroy 14 to 1, Rahm 16 to 1, DJ and Schauffele 20 to 1, Morikawa 22 to 1, Day at 23 to 1. Where's Koepka? Koepka's at 33 to 1 in a group that features Daniel Berger and then Tiger Woods at 35 to 1.
What I love, too, about this week is they pair everybody by their FedEx Cup standings. So the 1, 2, and 3 will play together, the 4, 5, and 6, and so on. So that'll be interesting to watch those guys that are 89, 90, and 91 who know they got to play well. It'll be interesting to see if they feed off each other. Northern Trust will be great. Next week they're in Illinois, and then the following week at the Tour Championship will be down to the top 70. We got the U.S. Open coming up in a month, so a lot of good stuff.
We got 3 weeks of playoff golf, and then we got another major, PJ. It's great.
And then football's here. I mean, the NFL starts, and it's crazy. So we get into all that with our great guest, Steve Sands from the Golf Channel. We talk PGA, U.S. Open, Masters, Tiger, Augusta, a little bit of everything.
Capitals disappointment.
Capitals disappointment, yes, and much more. Steve Sands coming up next. Joe, I'm fired up about this week's episode, man. We are joined by Golf Channel's Steve Sands. Steve, thanks so much for being here. How's everything going?
It's going great. A little pandemic, no fans with sports. My Capitals are playing like garbage. And, I've been home for 5 months. So what are you going to do? It's
Right.
good. Life is great. Life is great. We're very good. We're very healthy. I'm just messing around with the sports stuff. I hope you guys are doing well too.
Doing well.
Doing
Doing well.
good. I feel you on the Caps pain. They are struggling right now.
Terrible.
I'm a Rangers
Terrible.
fan, so we got swept, but we got Lafreniere, so it's all right.
Yeah, you got that first pick in the draft. I've heard from more Rangers fans in the last week than any other fans in hockey.
Well, we're glad we could get you on. We got the FedEx Cup playoffs happening here on Thursday. Before we get into that, though, we wanted to talk to you about the PGA Championship, which happened a couple weeks ago. Just wanted to get your takeaways from that, Morikawa, and, that shot that he hit on the 16th to pretty much seal the deal.
Yeah, that was a money shot. I am a huge fan. I'm a big sports fan, and I cover mostly golf. And when I see a golfer get that athletic mentality of let's go for it and let's win. Let's not try to protect our position. Let's not try to see what other guys are doing. Give me the ball. It was as if Collin Morikawa was down 1 with 9 seconds left, and he said to his coach, give me the ball. I'm going to get us a win. And I thought that shot was so great. And then he made the putt, which is the bigger thing. It's one thing to hit a great drive. If you don't cash in on the putt, then it's just a one-shot thing as opposed to a two-shot deal in that regard with that eagle at 16. So it was fun. It was weird to not have fans at a major championship, more so than the other regular season events on the PGA Tour. But Harding Park showed itself well. The guys really liked playing the golf course. The drama was high, and Collin Morikawa is a star in the making, no doubt.
I think most fans would agree that when majors are on the West Coast, they really enjoy it because you get to see all the leaders, watch their entire rounds. It's not, waking up early. You're watching it in prime time. So do you find yourself liking it better when the U.S. Open and the PGA are out west, or is there really no difference to you?
Oh, man, West Coast events are the best.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I don't like about a West Coast major is that I'm not your guy's age. I can't sleep till like 11 o'clock in the morning anymore. I get up like an old man, and I'm up at like 7 o'clock going, okay, give me some golf. Let's see some golf. But having it go to prime time, as a fan, I think it's fantastic. You kind of spend your day doing whatever you do, and then you can kind of hunker down and watch the PGA Championship, which is what we all did a couple of weeks ago. As someone who does it for a living, we go back and forth. We have the U.S. Open in a couple of weeks at Winged Foot on NBC, and we can't wait to have it back after not having the USGA since 2014. That's at Winged Foot. Next year will be at Torrey Pines. We can't wait for a West Coast event. Not that Winged Foot won't be great, because it will be. But having a West Coast major when you're working it, you know that the sports world is jacked up for it. You know that more people are interested because of the time difference. It allows people on Thursday and Friday to go to work and then come home and watch where they otherwise could not. And then on Saturday and Sunday, it allows people to kind of do their thing, hang out, spend time with their family, whatever they're doing, whether you're single, married, kids, no kids, doesn't matter. And then you can sit down, plunk down, crack open a couple of cold ones and watch a great event. And West Coast majors are just the best. We love them.
I'm totally with you. Kind of like West Coast baseball, being an Orioles fan. I love it when they're out playing the Angels or the A's, and just
love it.
It's great. I'm totally with you. Now, as we mentioned, the playoffs start this week. The majors are definitely the big events on the calendar, but the playoffs, no doubt a huge deal. Big money prizes, loaded fields. Do you think that players kind of treat this 3-week stretch of the playoffs maybe as they would prepare for a major?
It's become such a huge thing in golf. And I remember when it first started, because we've always had the FedEx Cup playoffs. Obviously, we have it on Golf Channel every single weekday, and then early coverage on the weekends. But we have the final 3, now final 2 events on NBC. We've had them for years. When the FedEx Cup playoffs first started, I think everybody was like, whatever, it's a money grab and that kind of thing. Now it's become what the original thought was, which is it is right there alongside these other huge events in golf as something that the best players in the world want to get their hands on. And it's not because of the money. These guys make a fortune. It doesn't matter. It's the competition. It's playing against the best players in the world. It's having the groupings of the guys together playing, not only just having great players in the field, but having them in the field and in the same groups playing together. It's just fantastic competition. The guys set their schedules to courses they like, to dates that they prefer, to the big events. And the FedEx Cup Playoffs, now that it's 3 events, it used to be 4, now it's 3. No doubt the FedEx Cup Playoffs right up there with all the biggest things you can do in the sport. It's really, really come around to be a massive thing in the sport.
Now, a lot has been made about how incredible this upcoming stretch is over the next 11 months. 7 majors, these playoffs, the players, 4 WGCs, absolutely loaded and about as jam-packed as you can have it. What about having all these tournaments played in such a short amount of time intrigues you the most?
The thing that intrigues me the most is how are the guys going to manage it? Last year when the PGA Championship was moved from August to May, and it made Augusta in April, May's the PGA, June's the US Open, July's the Open, August is the FedEx Cup Playoffs, September is either the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup. It kind of spaced things out in a nice way. The guys had to get used to that because it was a different schedule back then. The Players was moved to March, and then that started things, and FedEx Cup Playoffs ended things in August. Well, now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, everything's been truncated and everything's together. So what I think is going to happen, Joey, is I think some of the events in the fall aren't going to get the fields that they used to get because there's a major in the middle of September. There's in the US Open. There's the Masters in November. You know, it's only natural for the best players in the world to get amped up for those events. So they're going to have to mix and match their schedule. They're going to have to rest when they need it. It's not like the 3 of us getting into golf carts, grabbing a couple of beers and going to play golf in shorts and hanging out and telling stories and laughing. These guys are grinding and they're working from the day they get to the site to this time that they leave. So I think they're going to have to rest. They're going to have to make sure that their bodies are right, and they're going to have to make sure that their game is in shape for those big events. However they go about their business, I'm curious to see who plays the week before a major. Like the Safeway Open the week before Winged Foot is in California. Winged Foot is all the way in New York. So how are people going to deal with that type of thing? That's what intrigues me the most about these big events being so close, Joe.
And on that note, just to follow up real quick, Koepka played the week before and after the PGA, and he looks like he can't walk more than 3 holes without getting that whole stretching thing. So did that surprise you at all that he played before and after?
No, that's the thing that's so intriguing, as you said, about the schedule. Koepka's trying to make sure he ensures his FedEx Cup point standing to get all the way to Eastlake. So this week at Northern Trust at TPC Boston, it's 125 players. Next week at the BMW Championship at Olympia Fields, it cuts down to 70 players. Then they go to Eastlake, 3 straight weeks of golf. Eastlake is only 30 guys. So the goal is to get to Eastlake, however you get there. So I think that one of the reasons Tiger's playing all 3 weeks, Koepka's played a bunch, is because they're trying to ensure getting to Eastlake to win the FedEx Cup. And the only way to do that is to raise your standing in the FedEx Cup point standings. Mm-hmm. And Koepka has not had a Brooks Koepka type of year as far as the FedEx Cup points. So I think he's trying, or he was trying, to get as many points as possible to give him a little bit of cushion during these playoffs to alleviate some of the pressure this week at the Northern Trust.
Makes sense. Now, one of the upcoming majors in that jam-packed schedule, like we mentioned, Winged Foot. Have you been there? How often have you been there? And what do you expect to see out of the field?
It's a beast, man. It's such a beast. It's such a great golf course. So much history there. The last time the U.S. Open was played there was the Phil Mickelson, Jeff Ogilvy, Colin Montgomery craziness where Ogilvy was the last man standing. Everybody remembers Mickelson blowing it way left and then making a double at the last. Colin Montgomery had a chance to win his only major of his career. It would have been anyway. And he really hit a terrible iron shot. And Ogilvy was the guy who was the best of the bunch, and good for Jeff. Great guy, great player. Winged Foot has a long history. Massive rough, thick, nasty rough. Greens that roll like they're on a dining room table, undulating, fairways that are skinny. It's long. A U.S. Open being played in September you never know what Winged Foot's going to look like in September. You would think in New York that September would be a really nice time of year to get that golf course in shape, and the weather would be a little bit better than it would be perhaps, say, in the middle of June. But you don't know. So we'll see what the weather has in store, but the golf course is fantastic. Winged Foot has a long history. We expect a great weekend, and I'm honestly, our whole company is so jacked to have the U.S. Open back on NBC and on Golf Channel for the first time. We can't wait to get up there.
You talk about how a U.S. Open might look in September. How do you think the Masters will look in November as opposed to what we're always seeing in April?
I'll tell you what, PJ, when they announced last week that they were not going to have fans, patrons, as they call them down in Augusta, that bummed me out. We've gotten used to seeing no fans in sports, watching a lot of hockey, watching the NBA, watching Major League Baseball. I'm not a big NASCAR guy or UFC guy, but, golf seemingly led the way in that, foray of sports with no fans. Looked a little odd and quiet on Thursday and Friday, and then on Saturday and Sunday, it looks and sounds much different than it normally does when the fans are packed. Augusta, with those roars through the trees, with those people lining up chairs early in the morning so that they can go see the finish late in the day. It's just going to be a different vibe, a different feel. And also one thing about Augusta being played, PJ, that I don't think a lot of people think about when you guys watch the Masters every year, I'm sure. Right. So when we watch the Masters, it ends at 7:00. Sun's going down a little bit. It's later in the day. It's not a West Coast major like we talked about, but it's late, on a Sunday. Now that it's being played in November, it's the week after the clock changes. So they're going to have to get off that golf course before 5:00. So you're going to see early tee times, most likely going to be played in threesomes, not twos, which is what they prefer on the weekend at Augusta. They prefer that during the week as well. And the weather, you just don't know what it's going to be like in November compared to April. They have a way at Augusta of making sure that everything is exactly perfect. In April? Are those azaleas going to be blooming? Are we going to see kind of fall foliage? We're going to see an Augusta that we've never seen before. And the golf course is going to play different. Just not having the patrons there, not having the noise, not having the ability to get ratcheted up by the energy. It's going to feel different. But I will say this. It's still Augusta. Yeah. And there is less oxygen on that golf course than any other golf course on the planet. Those guys will be nervous and amped up and ready to go. It just is going to be a little bit more quiet than we're used to hearing.
The jacket will still be green in the end. That's all.
100%.
Steve, it's a great point you bring up about the time, but also if we do have a football season, it's going to be interesting to see what CBS does. And maybe if they go to the Masters in the morning again, like they did last year, which personally I loved because you got the college football games at night.
Sure.
So from a scheduling aspect, it'll be interesting to see.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what's going to take place there. What's going to happen is CBS is not going to have any 1:00 Eastern games that week. Right. They basically have petitioned the NFL or will go to the NFL with the scheduling. And Roger Goodell, who happens to be a member at Augusta National, I believe will appease everybody in this kind of strange 2020. I don't know exactly how the logistics have worked out or will work out, but my guess is, as we're sitting here in August, my guess is no 1:00 games on CBS on Sunday. They'll start their games at 4:05 or 4:25, and the Masters will end at 4 p.m. Eastern time is my guess. That's what it sounds like it's going to happen, which makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Especially with like you said,
with the clock change
down, they got to get off the course, so that makes the most sense. Now sticking with the Masters, one more. What Tiger did last year, it's something that obviously none of us are ever going to forget. You've covered a lot of golf tournaments. Has there been any of them that top that moment? The only other one that comes to mind is just the way it's kind of talked about historically is the one after his father passed, and then this one.
Right.
So that's the only other one that comes to mind. But does anything top the most recent Tiger Masters?
You know, one of the things that I do this with we have 3 teenage kids, and they're massive sports fans, and they think LeBron's the greatest player, like every kid does, as opposed to Jordan, who my era thinks, that kind of stuff. It's hard to erase the most recent memory, like it is for kids today to understand what the game was before LeBron or before X or whoever the player is. You know, look, 2008 at Torrey Pines when he's playing on a broken leg and he made that putt at the end. He made a couple of eagles coming down the stretch on Saturday. That was insane. Monday finish with a Rocco Mediate playoff. Winning after his father, like you said. How about the, outside of the majors, he's had some moments like the Tour Championship when the fans are coming down the hill with him at 18 at East Lake and the place is going absolutely bananas. I've seen him get more riled up at Ryder Cups than people care to think he does. People think he doesn't care about those things. I promise you he does. And that's the loudest thing in golf is a Ryder Cup. And when he gets going at a Ryder Cup, I mean, the place is juiced. I mean, crazy juiced. It's great. But I don't think I've ever seen anything more dramatic than that. Augusta last year, the Masters. The comeback story, the way he played, what happened there with Molinari at 12, Koepka at 12, Poulter at 12, Finau had a chance, Schauffele had a chance. Nobody thought he was ever going to win a major ever again. It was about as dramatic as golf can be, I think. It was something else. It was special. There's no doubt about it. But to rank him, I don't know how you could rank anything higher based on his comeback, where it was, what it meant to him, hadn't won a major in so long. Yeah, I would say that's got to be at the top of the list.
Now, personal question, Tiger, for you. I know that every time you interview him, he always calls you Sandsy. Do you remember how that came about? And what's it like having Tiger Woods have his own little personal nickname for you?
PG, I get asked that all the time, man. My poor wife, she gets called Mrs. Sandsy whenever she goes out anywhere. I don't know how it started other than the fact that, if I just called Joe Joey earlier. I just, people just call people with an IE or a Y.
Right.
I joke with people that maybe he just doesn't know my name. I don't know. It's become a fun thing, I guess. I get asked about it all the time. I mean, I can't remember the last time I was in an airport or a restaurant, a bar, a ball game, wherever, a grocery store, and someone doesn't say that. They don't even say Steve, Steven, Sands. They just say
Sands.
They say Sands. But that speaks more to the power of him than anything else. I mean, it's got nothing to do with me. Look, Amanda Balionis does interviews on CBS. I do the winners interview on NBC. And whether I'm in the booth calling golf, whether I'm hosting the golf, whether I'm in the tower doing holes, all anybody ever knows me for is doing interviews at the end with the guys who win or the guys who don't win. And that's fine. I understand it's a visible spot. It's television. And he is probably the most interesting athlete of our generation. One of the most popular, certainly the best, in my opinion, of anybody in sports in our era in the last 25 years. But the fact that he calls me that's a thing for him, not for me. But it's fine. You got to have fun with it. You have to embrace it. What are you going to do? Fight it? It's all good. I just think it's become this massive thing. The other thing is, it's become big because of his comeback. It's not like from 2013 when he hadn't won to 2017 that anybody cared what anybody called anybody. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden he pops up on leaderboards, starts winning again, starts becoming Tiger Woods of old. And, he throws a nickname at you and all of a sudden everybody's watching and he catches on. So, whatever. It's all good. It's, I feel bad for my wife and kids, when they get called that stuff. I'm like, oh God, I want them to be their own people and not have to get, be my sons or that's my husband, that kind of stuff. So it's nice. It's fun. Tiger enjoys that. But I think he calls everybody. He would call Joe Joey.
Yeah.
He hasn't even met the guy. So.
Think of your caps. It's Backy.
It's Backy.
Ovi,
right. Everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. I personally don't think, now that you brought that up, personally, I don't think Tiger's from Southern California. I actually think he's Canadian because everybody from Canada calls everybody by an IE or a Y. It's a hockey thing. And so maybe that's a deal. I don't know what it is, but Tiger's been very good to me in my career. Obviously, being my age and doing being a sportscaster for the last 30 years, predominantly for the last 20 years doing golf. I mean, what a run it's been. And it's mainly been because of him. And we have a great professional relationship. He's been very good to me. I've been very, very lucky. And may it continue. I wish him all the best. He's a good guy. He's been through a lot on and off the golf course, as everybody knows. But the game is better with him. Sports is better with him.
He is the needle, as everybody likes to say.
He is. He's not. He doesn't move the needle, Joe. He is the needle. And it's just fun to see athletes perform at a high level, and it's fun to see them compete. It's fun to see them get after it. Like I said about Collin Morikawa, the thing that I love the most about that shot is he had the stones to hit it. He executed it. Yeah. He made the putt. But what took place before that is, give me the ball, coach. I want to go win this thing. And I love that about athletes. I love that about sports. And nobody has displayed that more than Tiger Woods in the last 25 years in golf.
Now, Steve, last question for you before we get into our two final segments we like to do with all our guests. What is a course outside of the majors, some of the best courses on tour, that consistently flies under the radar, but is one of your favorites that you love going to every year?
Well, there's no better tournament in the world to go to than TPC Scottsdale and the Waste Management Phoenix Open.
Oh, the 16th, yeah.
I mean, first of all, I've been so lucky we have it. So the Super Bowl is that weekend every year.
Yeah.
It's the only PGA Tour event that rotates between CBS and NBC. Excuse me. And because of the Super Bowl. So if we have the Super Bowl, CBS has it. Sure. If CBS has a Super Bowl, we have it, that kind of thing. So, and when Fox has it, CBS has it. So we only have it one out of every 3 years on NBC. But we have it every year on Golf Channel Thursday and Friday and early Saturday and Sunday. But for those of us on NBC, we're excited to get back there in February because we get to have it this year because CBS has the Super Bowl. So if you're going to go to one event, that's the one to go to.
That's the one. Good to know.
The golf just happens to be taking place with a party around it. And it's high-level golf. It's big-time golf. The golf course is spectacular. 15, let's start before that. 15, reachable par 5 over water. Incredible. That's the one where Ricky Fowler had to make the decision years ago to lay up or go for it. 16, complete circus at 45,000 people at that hole alone. All right, there's 200,000 people on the ground every day, 45,000 people. It looks like a major league ballpark, and it's just one hole on the golf course. 17 is a reachable par 4. 18 is a par 4 that has water left, bunkers right, really a lot of excitement and all those people around. But the atmosphere is incredible. It's so much fun doing that event. I've been really lucky the last few years to have the assignment of being at the 16th Tower. Calling golf there. It's the best. By the way, the people watching is spectacular. I mean spectacular. And I recommend everybody, if you're going to go to one regular season golf tournament on the PGA Tour, not a major, not the players, but aside from those 5, if I was going to pick one, that would be the one. It's a lot like going to Vegas. It's great when you're there. You're drinking and eating all day, every day, and you're out there getting sunburned. You're having a great time in the weather, and you're people watching, having a fun time, never sleeping, all that stuff. It's like going to Vegas, and then you come home, you feel like you've been hit by a bus. It's a great, great time, and it's a great event, and they do a wonderful job out there.
Hey, well, here's hoping that by February we could also have fans out there.
Oh my God! Can you imagine that? Can you imagine, Joe, that event without fans?
I know.
Oh, that 16th hole, yeah.
Oh my God! Don't even say that.
We'll pivot from it then. The two fun segments that PJ like that tease that we always do at the end with all our guests. The first one's called the Swift 7. 7 questions, rapid fire. Don't think too much about it. First thing that comes to mind. With that being said, number 1, gut feeling. Who are you interviewing at the end of the U.S. Open as a winner?
Oh, man. Justin Thomas.
Koepka's media trash talk. Love it or hate it?
Love it.
All right. Favorite sports movie?
Caddyshack.
All right. That's a good one. Everybody talks about more majors for Tiger, but does Phil have another one in him?
Actually, Miracle. Can I scratch that?
Oh, great one, yeah.
Miracle was phenomenal. Go ahead. What was the other one? I'm sorry.
Everyone talks about more majors for Tiger, but does Phil have another in him?
No. Love him, but he's 50. That's a tough spot.
Favorite city you've ever been to?
Oof. In the United States or internationally?
Anywhere, yeah.
Anywhere?
Yep.
London.
Okay. What's your favorite golf hole around the world on any course?
13 at Augusta, the greatest golf hole on the planet.
That par 5, I'm totally with you.
It's the best.
It is. Who is the funniest guy on tour that you always love to interview?
There's nobody in all of golf you would rather go out and have a beer with than Kevin Kisner.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, and the last thing we'll do with you, Steve, we got a trivia question for you. All right?
Yeah. Oh, man.
So it's a good one for you.
Are you an Alabama guy, PJ?
I am, yeah. That's where I went.
Wow, Roll Tide.
I'm from Maryland. Yeah, I live in Rockville, but
okay.
Yeah, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, little Dreamland barbecue, baby.
Good stuff. JT's my guy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
He noticed the smile on PJ's face when you said.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, bud. Absolutely.
All right, Steve. So we put 90 seconds on the clock for all our guests, and you get 3 strikes. All right. So your question is: since 2008, there have been 6 non-American golfers who have won the Masters. You can give us 5 of the 6. We'll give it to you. To give you a little context, the year before that was Zach Johnson in 2007.
Right.
So after him, if you can give us 5 of the 6 non-American guys, you got it.
2008, Trevor Immelman. 2009, Angel Cabrera.
Correct.
2000, I believe, 14 was Adam Scott. 16 was Danny Willett. 17 was Sergio Garcia.
You got it. But if you can get the last guy, that'd be even great. But you got it right. It was 2011.
2011, Charles Schwartzel.
There you go.
Well done.
There you go.
Yeah. And that, by the way, is a disease that we all have in this sport. Yeah.
Child's play. That was nice.
We won't penalize you, though, for saying 2014 for Adam Scott. It was 2013, right?
Was it 13?
It was 13.
Yeah,
I believe
13.
Bubba was 14.
Yeah.
Bubba was the 12 and 14. He was the even number guy.
Yeah.
Yes,
correct.
You're right. It was Charles in 11, 4 straight birdies to win. And then, Scott did it in 13.
That is
14. 13 or 14. I don't know.
Well
I
done.
don't know. Come on, Aussie, what he yelled at. That was a very, very cool moment, by the way.
That was great.
He beat Angel Cabrera, who could have won for the second time. And incredible sportsmanship at the end there. It was very, very cool.
Who are the guys that get the biggest following at Augusta outside of like Tiger and Phil? Who's like a guy you maybe wouldn't think of that always has some pretty good crowds around them?
You know, it's a good question. Augusta is different than every other major championship. You go back to the same place every year. It has the same kind of vibe every year. And the people who go there tend to be people who go there almost every year. There are a lot of new people who come, but a lot of those people have had tickets for years and years and years, and they go every year. It's a tradition to them. So what happens at Augusta that doesn't happen at the other majors is the crowd spreads out. You know, people ask me all the time, what's a great place to watch golf at Augusta? I would go to left of 15, sit in the grandstands all the way in the back corner. 15's the par 5 down the hill. Yep. Because as I'm looking at you, you're looking at 15 green. If you just go like this, you're at 16T. If you just go like this, you can watch 16T and go to 16 green, and then just over there is not only 6 up on the hill, but 17T as it comes back up parallel to 15. So fans tend to patrons, tend to follow the best players, obviously, no matter where they are. But the patrons at Augusta, they tend to spread out all over the golf course. Tiger gets the biggest draw. The biggest thing at Augusta is how they treat their champions. Whenever it doesn't matter whether it's, Gabe Brewer, or whether it's Trevor Immelman, or whether it's Tiger Woods, they get a following no matter where they are because the patrons spread out all over the golf course. They don't just follow one group, which I think is one of the things that makes Augusta different than the other major championships. It's a tough one to answer because they don't just follow certain guys there. They follow the entire golf course. It's the only place in sports where the golf course matters more than the event. I promise you. You could go there on a Tuesday. If I got you tickets on a Tuesday, you went to Augusta, you'd walk all 18 holes. You'd have one of those horrible pimento cheese sandwiches. You'd go into the merchandise tent. You'd spend $1,000 because you think you're never going to go there ever again, and you're going to leave. And then that night we're having dinner. And I go, hey, how was Augusta? What'd you think of the Masters? I don't know. I didn't see one golf shot, but I had the greatest time of my life. And that's how the Masters is treated every year. People just go and walk around the entire golf course, not just follow one guy. It's hard to follow one guy.
I had the privilege of going last year. Me and my buddy went for a Monday practice round, and we did everything that you just said, pretty much.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. Look, the Kentucky Derby is on a bucket list for everybody in the sports world.
Sure.
You're going to walk around Churchill Downs a little bit, kind of check out this, the steeples, the whole thing. But you're going to watch the race. The Indy 500, if racing's your thing, Wrigley Field, if you're a baseball guy, Fenway, whatever, Camden Yards, whatever. If you go to Tuscaloosa, you're going to walk around Bryant Denny. Yeah. You're going to eat some Dreamland barbecue, but you are going to turn and watch the game. Yeah. I promise you, if you go to the Masters, it's the golf course people want to see. They want to walk around and see the practice area. They want to go walk all 18 holes. And then they see 2 golf shots, and they're the most satisfied fan in the world. And they don't really care. Any other golf tournament, you're there to watch the golf.
Sure. St. Andrews, at Augusta, is it that way a little bit too?
A little bit, but St. Andrews, the thing about St. Andrews is you're not going to walk the whole course because you don't remember the holes at St. Andrews. You guys are a lot younger than I am.
Yeah.
You can remember every hole at Augusta. Yeah. Every hole.
That's true.
You've been watching your whole life. At St. Andrews, you remember 17, the road hole. You remember 18 because of the clubhouse and because of the Swilken Bridge. You remember 1 tee because you're driving straight across. But I defy anybody to tell me they can remember 2 through 16. Now, if I could play golf anywhere on the planet one time, I would play at St. Andrews. But that's because the town, the Dunvegan, grabbing a beer at the Dunvegan, the famous bar there, the pub there, the town is so alive for it. But the golf course itself, the 18 holes at Augusta are etched in everybody's brain.
You see it every
whereas the old course is not like that. We're going to the old course in 2022 for the Open Championship, and we'll have it again in 25. So that's twice in a 4 Open Championship span. But it's not like Augusta every single year. You guys can tell me every shot on every hole at Augusta. You can't do that from 2 through 16 at St. Andrews. 1, 17, and 18, I'll give it to you, but not 1 through 18.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Well, Steve, we appreciate it. Our interview was supposed to wrap up like 5-7 minutes ago, but I was just fanboying out over here, and I had to pick your brain about Augusta and all these little things.
You can keep me all day if you want. If you're friends with Golden, you're good by me, PJ.
Man, he's a good man. Well, Steve, we appreciate it, man. Glad that golf is back. We had a major last week. We got the FedEx Cup coming up.
Here's hoping you get fans in Arizona. I'm hoping that for you more than anything, honestly.
No. For you guys, because I'm going to get you guys tickets. You're going to come out there. We're going to have a great time.
That'd be incredible.
That would be awesome.
That'd be incredible.
Well, Steve, we appreciate it, man. Stay safe, be well, and look forward to hopefully doing this again somewhere down the road. It was awesome talking to you.
Appreciate it.
All right, fellas, be good. Thanks for having me. Roll Tide.
Take care.
Once again, that was Steve Sands from the Golf Channel, our amazing guest. So great to talk to him.
We got to hold him to that.
We do. Those tickets, he dropped that in there a little bit at the end, and I'm like, well, okay then, gladly. But, Arizona's a hot spot right now, so we need those cases to go down. We need
We
fans.
got time. It's February.
True.
So just something to be hopeful for on the horizon.
On TV, though, that does look like a ton of – he's right. 45,000 people hang out at that one –
It is like Yankee Stadium. It's crazy.
Crazy. So we'll try to hold him to that. Hopefully that can happen. That would be a lot of fun. But you heard him talk about the importance of the playoffs and how golf for years was kind of looking for a stretch to reward guys who were consistent over.
And it's just also a way to make everything more important because look, to the fans who were casual golf fans, you're probably only tuning in for the majors if you're a casual golf fan. Hardcore golf fans are watching everything, obviously.
Yeah.
But this was a way of, besides being a money grab, which in part it is, obviously. But it was also a great way to take that guy who's on the fence of being a casual golf fan and dragging him in, because now, you know, he doesn't have to question why he's watching the 3M or the Rocket Mortgage in Detroit on a random Thursday. You know, it means something. It all means something that it goes down to this. So it was a great idea to, okay, obviously the money grab, we can't disregard that. Like Steve
11 million goes to the winner, so that helps.
But also it's a way to improve getting more casual fans to hardcore fans. Your hardcore fans get that much more into it. It's great all around. It's really great all around. And I was very happy to hear what he had said about, you know, despite how it was kind of received at the beginning, the Players Championship is obviously kind of like the fifth major. You know, you got your four. The Players is right there. It's the next one.
Yes.
And now the golfers have all embraced this as kind of being like almost in that category of the Players, where it's something that they all care about now.
Well, the perfect example of that was when you asked him why Koepka was playing an event before major and right after, and Steve told you because he wants to get points where he feels comfortable this week. He obviously didn't get that, but it's all about getting to Eastlake, and that right there, if one of the best players in the game is not taking any off days because he knows he needs the points, that right there tells you the importance.
And he, of all people, needs the off day. If you've been watching that, he has to get stretched out after like every third hole. So he more than anybody needs the off day and not taking it. So it shows you, again, just how much they do care now. And Sandsy will have some fun.
That was great. I love how he said, people come up to me and then my poor wife, Mrs. Sandsy. So it's so true, though. You know, everybody who meets me, it seems like, calls me Peach. It's just the way it is. I don't know where. It's because it's one syllable, I guess, instead of two, because God forbid my name's two letters. It's really long. But they go with Peach. But I noticed that, too, how he called you Joey one time. Interesting. But sometimes that's what happens, you know. He probably just called him Sandsy. It stuck, and now he lives with it wherever he goes. So that's a lot of fun. So we got the playoffs in golf coming up, Joe, but we got playoffs in two major sports going on.
Wait, before that, the one more thing that I wanted to touch on about Sandsy was, I feel bad calling him that. I'm going to stop. One thing about Steve was that neither of us thought about is for the Masters, with the daylight savings time, they got to get that in early. It's going to be a totally new look at the Masters. But obviously, courses are going to play differently in November. A lot of different things going on, but that was one thing that did not even cross my mind. With the clocks changing the week before, you're going to need to get off of that course. I mean, you see it every year in a normal Masters where
they're playing into like sundown. I mean,
they're playing exactly, and now you got to be off course by 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Right, so especially because you know CBS is going to want to air college football and NFL. They'll probably move the college game to Saturday night, but the NFL, they got to put in that 4:25 time slot. So you got to figure the leaders are probably teeing off about 10:30. Yep. So that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see how that course plays in November. Might get a little snow. Who knows? I don't know if it snows in Augusta in November.
I don't think it does.
I don't know if it does.
I don't think so.
We'll see what happens. NBA playoff preview and NHL playoff preview, Joe. We got two sports that are in playoff season right now. The NBA just started yesterday as we record this on Tuesday. And the NHL, I mean, some of these series are getting into the later games. We'll start with the NHL, and every game is going at least 5, potentially, except those damn Capitals who are sucking it up. Losing 3-0 to the Islanders right now.
So far, this is kind of played to form. Also, For any listeners who also follow us on Twitter, I was so annoyed at myself in the episode last week, I picked the Flames, but I didn't realize my bracket challenge on the NHL.com where you could win $1 million, which I'm not going to because the Capitals are going to get swept.
Yeah.
I accidentally put the Stars through. So it could be a happy accident because they're 2-2 right now, and the Stars have the momentum after their last win, scoring with just a few ticks left and then winning in overtime. But the Capitals the Capitals are the only series that has really been like just a total didn't see that coming head scratcher. Vegas on the way to a gentleman's sweep. Avalanche, same thing. Lightning, same thing. The Bruins, Canes, maybe a little surprised at 3-1. Canes were a hot pick. I know we both picked them. Flyers.
The Bruins have just turned it on in the third period. I mean, the Canes won 2-0 yesterday. It's really, they're just closing better.
That's it. Flyers, Canadians. The Canadians have been a little bit closer, playing with some emotion with their head coach going to the hospital with the heart problem. He's gone for the series. And then Canucks Blues, great series at 2-2. So everything has kind of gone to form except the Capitals. I know we had talked about it last week where we both could have seen them losing. We both picked them in 6 or 7, but we both could have seen them losing because Barry Trotz is the best coach in the National Hockey League, and you never know. But they have just totally come out and looked uninspired, lazy.
They're slow. They're
very sluggish. They look like a team who just they don't look like a team at all who played in October and November.
They don't.
And Todd Reirden, it hasn't really been talked about a ton, but he's got to be on some sort of hot seat, if not already one foot out the door. Yeah. Because look, with no disrespect to him, when he was hired, it was just kind of, all right, well, we're not going to renew Barry, which is still one of the dumbest decisions I think that any organization has made recently, that they let their Stanley Cup winning best coach in the NHL just walk and not give him a new contract after his contract was up. But they were like, oh, you know what? Todd's been his assistant. Let's see if Barry wore off on him. And he hasn't. They are not playing the same way. There's that fire and emotion that Barry Trotz has. Todd Reirden is the exact opposite. He's very calm. There doesn't seem to be any sense of urgency. I feel bad like we're piling on him right now, but like we're just calling it as we see it right now.
Well, the biggest tell to me was the fact that the Caps were down 2-0. They know they needed to have Game 3. They got off to good starts in Game 1 and Game 2, and then of all the games where they decide to come out sluggish, it's a game where you have to have. And they haven't scored a goal in the third period yet all series. They're just slow.
They haven't scored a goal, unless I'm wrong. Maybe I'm sorry. Maybe they did. I don't know if they scored a third period goal in the round robin either. Either way, they didn't score more than 2 goals in the round robin in any game. So they haven't gotten past the 2-goal mark.
You know, it's outside of
about as bad as you can play.
Nobody outside of Ovechkin and Oshie, and occasionally Kuzi is really playing well for him. And I mentioned to you before we recorded the pod that something nobody's talking about. Todd Reirden is 0-6 in games away from Capital One Arena as a playoff coach. And hockey is the one sport where it seems like there's really no home-away ice advantage. I mean, there is an advantage, but not compared to like baseball or basketball or football where you see teams that year after year are dominant. I mean, teams go on the road all the time and win at another team's rink. So the fact that he hasn't been able to get one win away from Capital One, even all those years when the Caps were struggling in the playoffs, they were always a decent road team. They just couldn't win big games at home because they were always the higher seed. It's been the complete opposite with him.
The year they won the Cup, they went down 0-2 against the Blue Jackets with the first 2 at home and went on the road and won 2.
Correct. So they won 9 road games that year.
They clinched the Penguin series on the road. They clinched the Lightning series on the road.
Vegas.
They clinched the Cup on the road. And that right there, it tells you all you need to know.
It's coaching, Joe. It really is, because you don't get last change, obviously, when you're on the road. And Trotz is just – the Islanders look better. They look faster. They're better coached. The Caps are so undisciplined, too. I think they've had, 18 penalties in 3
I was just going to say that a big part of the reason that they haven't been scoring goals is they can't get into a 5-on-5 rhythm, because every time they try to do anything, they look over their shoulder and the referee's got his arm up and they're going back to the box. So
right. Look, I mean, I don't like talking about firing coaches and whatever because it's such a hard job. But
job that I know I couldn't do. So
right.
I don't want to
Reardon,
talk about them doing it. But
he was given the keys to a Ferrari and he knows it. When you're given a job like that and you have to win right away, there's really no time to ease into this thing. And he just simply has not produced. The Caps have mastered the regular season. They know how to navigate that and get to the playoffs. And to come up losing the first round of the Hurricanes in Game 7, which could have gone either way, but now to get swept by the Islanders. If they lose today, it's going to be tough for him to come back next season.
And besides that, I mean, even look at the last 2 regular seasons that he's been in charge. They've had their really hot streaks, but then they've also just disappeared for about a month and a half stretch at a time. And just these slumps that they go through, it's just there's just a lot of things working against him. And you know, if we're fortunate enough to have Joe Beninati back on the podcast once the NHL season as a whole is over, not just when the Capital season is over, but once the NHL season as a whole is over and we're in the off season, very curious to hear his thoughts. I guess by then we'd know whether or not Reardon is or isn't coming back.
Right.
If Reardon does keep his job, I'd be curious to know what Joe B would have to say about how hot the seat is going into next year. Is it something where if they get off to a slow start, he's getting fired by the second month of the season? So very, very quick turnaround from Stanley Cup to now 2 years later looking to get another coach because they didn't just sign Barry Trotz. I will still never understand that, why they didn't talk contract with him. And I don't know. I feel like I think they got their cup and they were like, kind of going back to what we had talked about with Bob Lobel. Not saying that this is what happened with Ted Leonsis, and he's done a good job with the Capitals. I can't say he's done a good job with the Wizards, but you wonder if that's part of it. Like Bob was saying, it's cyclical. You cut, owners are in, you want to win, and you get a championship. One's enough, and then you're content. Did they get into that stage of being content, and that's why they let Barry Trotz walk? And now they're seeing that, oh, crap, we might have just wasted 2 more years of Alex Ovechkin, and we have to try to find a way to get him another one if we can. They're in a great situation. Whoever – if Reardon could turn it around, or whoever they bring in, whether it's a veteran like Peter Laviolette or whatever the case is, they're in a great situation.
Sure.
Still in win now mode. They're going to get Holtby coming off the books. So they will have options, and they have a lot of talent still. They've got a Norris winner, or should be future Norris winner, and Carlson at the back. You got obviously all the guys up front, Oshie, Wilson, Ovi, Backey, Kuzi, Verana. Like, you got all the talent. Samsonov in goal is going to be one of the bright young stars of the league. So you have the pieces. It's just defenseman 2 through 6 really needs an upgrade after Carlson. And again, just the coaching and the inspiration. You have to see how that goes. So Caps, the only one that didn't really go to form. Everything else right now, again, more to evaluate next week once the series are wrapped up and we can start looking ahead to round 2. Everything else right now holding exactly true to form in the 2 really hot contested series so far. Stars, Flames, Canucks, Blues, and then Flyers, Canadians could become that if the Canadians tie it up at 2-1 tonight. Otherwise, we will have 5 series that are 3-1 on the brink.
Right. And we get into the NBA where we probably will see some more of that 4 or 5 game series in a couple. The NBA Bucks Magic,
never really anything, honestly.
You look at the NBA, Bucks Magic, at best, the Magic win 1 game. Raptors Nets, at best.
I don't think the Magic win anything. The Bucks were a -150 favorite to sweep. So
I don't think they're going to win either. I'm just saying at best they win 1 game, but I can't see it. The series that'll really be good, I think, in the first round is Pacers Heat.
Pacers Heat will be fun.
That should be good.
After what we saw in Game 1 of the Celtics Sixers, that could be good. Gordon Hayward got hurt, so that makes it even closer.
Yes,
Clippers Mavericks. Porzingis getting thrown out was ridiculous, and the Mavericks might have had a chance to win that if not for that. Crazy first half. It went from 18-2 lead for the Clippers out of the gates to a 20-point lead. For the Mavericks, I think it was at one point. And Nuggets Jazz overtime game, 57 for Donovan Mitchell. Jamal Murray went off too.
Were you watching that game?
I was. I was at work. I had that off on the
between those two was that was special.
Had it on off to the side, just kind of peeking over every now and then. Look, every year the NBA's first round is never really that good.
No.
I think we can have series pushed to 6. I could see the Mavs, Jazz, Sixers pushing it to 6. Never really a threat to win the series for any of those. The Nuggets, Clippers, and Celtics will come through. But you've got 2 pretty much book it guaranteed sweeps in Bucks Magic and Raptors Nets. Rockets Thunder is a toss-up. Pacers Heat is a toss-up.
Yes.
Lakers Blazers, I think it's more likely that the Lakers sweep than it is that the Blazers pull off the upset, despite all the momentum and
that's why I like the
about
Lakers.
Lillard. Exactly.
Too much momentum with the Blazers.
The Blazers can't defend anything. I mean, they don't really have an answer for Lillard, the Lakers, but the Blazers don't have an answer for LeBron.
Or
they
Davis.
Can just throw Davis. They can just throw physicality at, whether it's Whiteside or Nurkic. Like, they'll just throw a body at him, but they have nobody who could compete with LeBron. So I honestly don't think it'll be 4. I think it'll be Lakers at 5. But really, like we said, the first round of the NBA, it's really the fun starts at round 2, and nothing epitomizes that more really, unless it was just they couldn't churn out the uniforms in time. Nothing epitomizes that more than the Lakers are waiting until round 2 to start wearing those jerseys to honor Kobe. They're not even bothering with those jerseys in round 1. Damn. So that just shows you what the NBA's favorites think of round 1.
So. Yeah. So isn't there a part of you that wishes that the Suns got that playing game instead of Memphis? So you could have seen Blazers,
100%, 100%. And it just kind of goes to show how maybe in the end wrong the NBA was to go with 22 teams. The Wizards never stood a chance.
Oh.
And the Suns went the best you can do, 8-0, and still didn't make it. So you probably could have cut off the Wizards in hindsight. You probably could have cut off the Suns in hindsight.
The Kings,
they ended up falling back in the pack, but like the Spurs were in it. Spurs mathematically could have made it on the last day. But the Sun, I mean, it's again, the Suns were there. They had a scenario in which they could have made it, but like they had to go 8-0 to even have a chance, and they went 8-0 and still didn't get in. So it gives credence to the people who were like, yeah, the NBA probably could have gone with 18 or 20 and not had to bring 22 in. But at the end of the day, the talk about complaining about 22 teams was only because they felt they could have lowered the risk and had 4 fewer teams in the bubble. But the whole time they've been in the bubble, no positive tests. So in the end, the risk paid off, and we got some fun basketball.
Right. And before we get into Where Would You Go, Joe, and trivia, we got to talk about something that was just blowing up when I woke up this morning.
Oh, God.
And that is Fernando Tatis, and whether or not it was right for him to hit that home run up 3-0 in a 3-0 count.
It's not just hitting the home run. It's swinging 3-0 when you're up 7.
So here's my thing, okay? You're up 7. Like, it's not like you're up 20.
And their bullpen is not good, and they've had bullpen issues.
So you're up 7.
So any run you can get is a good run to have.
Right. You're up 7, which is not the craziest deficit in the world. It's 3-0, okay? So say you want the guy to take the pitch. He takes a strike. It's 3-1. 3-1, he swings, he fouls it off.
You're still getting a pitch to hit at 3-1. 3-1 is still a very
3-1, but he could foul it off. He could foul it off, and then 3-2, he grounds out, he pops up, he strikes out, and then, it's fine because he struck out because he's not allowed to swing away 3-0.
It's crazy.
I mean, tell you, the pitch wasn't even like right over the middle, like a get-me-over fastball. It was low and away that he took to right center field. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to get mad at the dude for hitting, I'm almost more disappointed in the Padres and the manager of the Padres for getting on Tatis for doing that. You know, I can kind of see the Rangers side because they're probably already pissed that they're getting blown out and they're like 3-0, like you really needed to do that. But then when they had time to reflect, they'd be like, you know what, I get it, I guess.
And then later in the game, the Rangers threw at Machado to like try to retaliate. So it's just stupid. I mean,
stupid.
These are some of the reasons why baseball is having trouble reaching the younger generation. It's that when you have a bright, young, fun star, I mean, Tatis is pimping every homer he hits. There's a bat flip. There's a strut. They should be embracing this. This should be, like Soto. they should be embracing everything about that. You know what? Don't go down 7 runs. Don't go down 3-0 in the count, and he won't do that to you. You shouldn't. It is the only sport. It is the only sport where guys are looked down upon for succeeding sometimes because of the unwritten rules. It is the only sport where guys are looked down upon for succeeding because of the unwritten rules. It is stupid, and I hope that the next time he's got a 3-0 count, bases loaded, and they're up 12, hit another dinger and flip that thing into the second row.
Well, I mean, it's a reason why we love baseball is because there's no shot clock. There's no timer. You have to pitch the ball. You can't take a knee. You can't dribble out the clock. You have to keep pitching. So if you're going to keep pitching, then the dude should be allowed to hit whatever I think it's the dumbest thing ever. I wish we had Tim Kirchin on today because I would love to hear if we get the chance to have him on again. I would love to know his thoughts behind it.
And you've had so many bullpen collapses in the early stages of this MLB shortened season where, again, you understand why teams want to just pile on as many runs as they can. And again, you shouldn't be penalized for it. Just the other day, it wasn't 7-run lead, but it was 6-2 Giants in the 9th inning. And 6-2, and then the A's came back and put up a 4 or 5 spot and won it. So like you're getting this. All the Mets blow things left and right. The Phillies blow things left and right. The Padres have had blown games. If you can add runs. Don't worry about hurting someone else's feelings because you hit a grand slam at 3-0 when he might have hit it 3-1 in a hitter's count anyway. It's acceptable 3-1, but not 3. Like, come on, it's just give me a break.
I'm with you. I hope that the Padres look at it today and we're like, Fernando, just keep doing you, man. Like, yesterday in the moment we were hard on you, but just keep playing with that same flair because that's what makes him great. You brought up Juan Soto, it's the same thing. There are dudes like Trout, like Mookie Betts that are more reserved, but there are other guys like Soto, like Tatis, like trying to think maybe of a pitcher who's Jake Peavy was that way, man. He would get animated as hell. So there's just some guys that have an outgoing personality, and you just got to let them be what they are because that's what makes them great. So I'm with you on that. Where would you go, Joe? And then some trivia. So, Joe, once again, we got sports going on. Makes Where Would You Go, Joe, a little easier. We got Blazers-Lakers Game 2, which will be on Thursday, August 20th. We got Rays at Yankees, which was the best baseball game of the day. We got Game 6 possibility. So just assume that the Hurricanes win Game 5, and then it'll be Bruins-Hurricanes Game 6 on Thursday. Or would you want to head down to Bucks training camp to see Tom Brady in a creamsicle penny with Rob Gronkowski and Bruce Arians and the Bucks running around and all that?
PJ, I looked at this and immediately I thought Bucks training camp. I'm telling you.
Really?
It's not a game, but all right. Blazers-Lakers, we said, is a 4 or 5 game series.
Sure.
Don't care. Rays-Yankees, it is middle of the year. 2 teams that are at the top of the AL East. Doesn't matter in the long run, especially in an MLB season where you're going to be the one
They're
seed.
both going to make the playoffs.
3-game series. Forget it. Game 6 might not even happen, so I'm not committing to it.
True.
Bucks NFL training camp. I've seen it on TV a couple times. Brady in the creamsicle penny and the Buccaneers helmet, and I still think it's photoshopped every time I look at it. So I want to see that for myself.
That's weird.
It's got to be Bucks training camp. And it's the closest one to me proximity-wise, so I could just take a 3.5-hour drive up there.
Do you think he's the, weirdest athlete that you've seen in a different jersey? Like, I remember when Peyton Manning held up that Broncos jersey, and that was weird. Or I'm trying to think if there were any other bizarre ones off the top of my head.
Brett Favre with the Vikings was tough to look at. He wasn't as tough to look at with the Jets because I'm a Jets fan and there's no bad blood. Seeing him go purple after being a Packer, that was tough to look at just because of the rivalry aspect.
Right.
But
LeBron on Miami, maybe that was bizarre.
In today's NBA, that stuff was all kind of
KD going to Golden State might have been one.
But again, the NBA for me, it's tough because you see guys changing all the time in the NBA now where you're kind of used to it. So unless they go to a heated rival, like somebody goes from Lakers to Celtics or something, or from Knicks to Nets, like unless you get that, it's really not that crazy in the NBA anymore. Yeah, it's gotta be because like as synonymous as Peyton Manning was to Indy, Lucas Oil Stadium, the house that Peyton built. You knew that was coming because just where he had the surgery he had the surgery with the neck. They were getting Andrew Luck. You knew it was coming.
Sure.
You were prepared for it. There were murmurs, obviously, about Brady changing teams. You didn't really know that it was going to happen, and then it finally did. And, all the Super Bowls he's won there, all the success, it's just weird. It's just really weird seeing him in another jersey. Historically, you had Montana switch to the Chiefs. You've had guys who have done it, and, you can find little things that pointed to it, and it wasn't this big thing, but he is the GOAT of that league. He has won 6 rings with the Patriots and Belichick, and it's just you can't wrap your mind around seeing him in cream. It's so weird. Every time I see it, I think I'm looking at a Photoshop video on Twitter. It's so weird. So I gotta go with that. I gotta see it with my own 2 eyes.
That's fair. All right. That's why I threw it in there, because I didn't know if you'd bite, but sure enough, you did.
I bet.
Bucks training camp is the winner. Joe, it is 4 to 2.5.
4 to 2.5.
As we reach week 13. I believe I gave you my question first last time. You did. So would you like to give me your question first?
Sure. So during the week, we talked about Hard Knocks, and we'll talk about that more in episode 14, as we have seen 2 episodes then under our belt. Premiered this past week. Mm-hmm. Great episode. Yeah, really interesting to see the inner workings.
It's on tonight, right? Tuesdays?
It's on tonight. It's on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Really interesting to see the inner workings of an NFL franchise right now. So after you texted me that night that you had watched and we talked about it, I thought, let's go with a Hard Knocks-centric trivia that also ties to the NFL. You're a fan of the show, so this one's going to test your memory of the show, which teams were on it. It's going to test your memory of which teams sucked after being on the show and who the coaches were. So here's the question.
Oy.
Since the show came back from its 1-year hiatus during the 2011 lockout, the show has been a bit of a curse for head coaches. 4 coaches have gotten fired very soon after appearing on the show. 3 of them got fired at the end of the season they were on the show. 1 of them fired the following year, midway through the year. Can you give me the 4 coaches who were fired very, very soon after being on the show? Again, 3 of them were immediately that season. 1 of them was the following year. 4 coaches fired very soon after the show. It's a curse. John Gruden's okay right now. We'll see what Anthony Lynn and Sean McVay have in store. But your clock starts now.
It's a great question. There are 2 that I know are definite, but then I'm trying to think of the other 2. So you got Hugh Jackson and Rex Ryan. I know are the 2.
No, Rex Ryan's a mistake. Strike 1.
Really?
Yes.
Rex is a mistake?
All right, besides the fact that he doesn't fit the question.
He was the Bills coach when they were on.
No, the Bills weren't on it. He was the Jets coach when they were on it, and he didn't get fired till a couple years later. Rex Ryan. 35 seconds gone.
Ooh. Wow.
You got Hugh Jackson, though. That was an obvious one.
Yeah. Before Rex Ryan, I really didn't watch it too much, so I just have to go through and think of what.
Remember, we're talking after Rex Ryan, since 2011.
I don't know. I'm just going to start naming coaches. Like Jim Schwartz in Detroit?
No, they were never on it. I thought, you know what? You put yourself in a bad spot. You made it seem like you were a fan of the show, and you said you were, so I went with this. You got 15 seconds left. Wow.
I've really only watched. Yeah, I've only watched like the first 3 seasons, like the last 3 seasons closely. So you got me. I don't.
All right. Wow. All right. I didn't think that was going to go the way it did. First of all, like I said, it's since the hiatus of the 2011 season. Rex Ryan was the 2010 season, so he didn't even fit the question if you listen carefully. And he also didn't get fired right away. The 3 coaches who got fired at the end of that season then, 2014, the Falcons were on it. Mike Smith got fired. Then in 2016, the very famous scene when the Rams were on it, and Jeff Fisher said, "I'm not bleeping going 8-8 again," and they proceeded to go 8-8 again, and he got fired.
True.
And then
the Raiders, right? Wasn't the last one the Raiders?
No,
Like I remember Tony Soprano taking over or something.
No, you got Hugh Jackson. The last one was Dirk Cutter. He was the one who, for the Bucs in 2017, he got fired the following year. So those were the.
Got me.
Wow, after this week where we talked about Hard Knocks, I was like, oh, PJ's a fan of the show. This will test his memory of the last 5 seasons. And
the Browns season with Hugh Jackson is the one where I really started to watch.
Okay.
And then I watched the Raiders with Gruden, and then I've watched the first episode of LA. But
all right, well.
I mean, it was just a good football coaches that got fired question, but.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the way you painted it, I thought you were a fan of the show. So maybe I'll come back with a better question for you next week to kind of make up for it. But even if you weren't, you could have I thought you might be able to figure out, who was bad and got fired recently. But all right, well, you know what? I got a chance. I got a chance to get back.
You got a chance to gain some ground. We had Steve Sands on, so I got to give you a golf question.
All right.
Your question, Joe Malfa, is name me 7 of the 10 golfers who are top 10 in the official world rankings.
Right now?
Right now.
All right.
Go ahead.
Justin Thomas.
Is number 2.
Brooks Koepka.
Is number 7.
Collin Morikawa.
Is number 5.
Dustin Johnson.
Is number 4. So you need 3 more.
All right. Did I say DeChambeau?
You did not. 5, 2 more.
Okay. I said JT.
You're 30 seconds. You got plenty of time.
Jason Day's had a really good stretch. Jason Day?
Not Day. 1 strike.
Right. See, it's tough because, some guys, like they aren't necessarily ranked highly if they've been playing well. The last 2 are going to be tough.
Well, you got 5 guys to choose from.
I got 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have 5 to choose from.
You're missing the world number 1, the world number 3.
Really?
30 seconds left.
One of the guys. Rory?
Is number 3. You need 1 more.
Okay. And right, Webb Simpson left. Right now? Webb Simpson?
Yes, Webb Simpson.
There we go.
Got it. 3.5.
Who's number 1?
Jon Rahm.
Jon Rahm is number 1 right now? He hasn't done anything since golf has come back.
He won the Memorial.
Oh, that's right. Wait, he did. What am I saying?
Yeah.
That was it.
He won the Memorial. Him and JT have kind of flip-flopped the past, month. One's 1, one's 2. So Rahm was 1, Thomas was 2, Rory was 3, DJ was 4, Morikawa 5, Webb 6, Koepka 7, Bryson 8. You got the top 8. 9 and 10 were Patrick Reed, and Xander Schauffele.
Xander Schauffele crossed my mind. I wasn't sure if he was there, though. Because another one, like I was thinking with Day, where been doing well, hasn't won, might not be in the rankings because of that. So, all right, we're back with it.
I didn't know if 7 was going to be too many. I'll tell
you what. When you said 7, I was like, Jesus Christ, can I have 180 seconds instead of 90?
Yeah.
But no, that was good. All right, we're back.
Yeah, well done.
I feel bad. For now, after this is your own fault because you painted yourself as more of a fan of the show. But that was the first time that after asking a question, I felt bad because I thought you were more of a fan of the show where you would have at least remembered some of the teams.
Only the last 3 years I'm like Hard Knocks, but it's all right. Well done getting your question right. Thanks again to Steve Sands for coming on. It was a lot of fun talking to him. We got should we tell everybody who we got coming on next week, or we'll leave it as a surprise?
We could tell people now. See, we try to be coy about it because sometimes we have the agreement with the guest and we don't necessarily want to commit to it in case anything falls through, but we have these next 2 guests banked and ready to go.
So we'll only say next week's. So, keep them waiting for the 1 and 2 weeks. But next week we got Matt Turner, goalkeeper of the New England Revolution.
Yes.
A lot of fun talking to him. You went to high school with him, or he was?
So I didn't go to high. We'll touch on it more next week when we have him. I didn't go to high school with him, but we did overlap. He graduated the fall before. The summer before I got there in the fall, but he always came back during the summer to get extra reps in. So it should be no surprise that he is where he is now, always putting in that work.
We talked to him about, what the life was like in the bubble. Obviously, the MLS is starting their season up, so a lot of fun talking to him. Got that forward to look to next week, and we'll see you then for episode 14.